Recording start.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the public council meeting of June 1st, 2020. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Cicala.
Here.
Councilman Messeri.
Here.
Councilman Tinella.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Vargo.
Here. May I ask everybody to rise for the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Adequate notice of this meeting is duly provided to the Verona Cedar Grove Times and Star Ledger by email and published in an annual schedule of meetings on December 27th, 2018. December 28th, 2019, filed with the township clerk and posted on the public bulletin board, municipal building lobby, according to the Open Public Meetings Act. In addition, in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-1, please take note that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the June 1st, 2020 regular public meeting council of the township of Grove held via conference call. The public
Does
will
somebody have something open in the background? There's a lot of background noise.
Andy, can you mute everybody, Andy? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it was hard
Okay, there we go.
understanding, right, Rob?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The public will be able to listen to the meeting and participate during public comment by calling 1-866-305-0232 and entering the appropriate participant code provided. Okay, moving on to the agenda, we did the roll call, flag salute, open public meeting statement. So item 2A on the agenda, to consider approval of minutes of regular public meeting May 4th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Make the motion, Mayor.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Messeri and Councilman Tinella on the second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Messeri.
Yes.
Councilman Tinella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Abstain.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Item 2B on the agenda, to consider approval of minutes of special public meeting May 18th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Cicala.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala.
Yes.
Councilman Messeri.
Yes.
Councilman Tinella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Item 3A on the agenda, to consider adoption of pending ordinance number 20-860, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Ms. Stutz?
I would read the same thing, Mayor. Ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'd like to open up this portion for public hearing for any comments from the public. And to do that, Jeff, how many callers do we have on the line?
5, Mayor.
5. Okay, so for all of the callers on the line, if you have any comments on this item and this item only, we are going to go ahead and unmute the conference call. Please state your name, your address, and then go ahead and provide your comment or question. So I will provide a 10-second runoff. If I don't hear anything after 10 seconds, we'll close that portion of the meeting. Go ahead, Jeff, if you don't mind. Can you please unmute everybody?
All guests have been unmuted. You will now rejoin the meeting.
Okay, the audience has been unmuted. If you have a comment, please provide it on item 3A only. Okay, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and close that portion of the meeting, and we're going to pause for a second so that way we can mute the line again.
Would you like your guest? You will now rejoin the meeting. Mute your line by pressing *6.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments, Mr. Tucci, on this before I go ahead and ask for a motion?
No, not at this time, Mayor.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move for the adoption of pending ordinance number 20-860 to be published in the Star Ledger as a passed ordinance to take effect as prescribed by law.
Thank you, Councilman Cicala. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Messeri. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Messeri,
Yes.
Councilman Tinella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. At this point in time, we're going to move to item 4 on the agenda. We will do the exact same thing. The meeting will be open to residents of the township wishing to be heard on any item on the agenda. I will remind all the residents on the call, we will have a portion at the end of the meeting where it will be open to the public on any item on or off the agenda. So at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and unmute all of the lines. We'll do a 10-second runoff just like we did. And if I don't hear any comments or questions, we'll go ahead and close that. And again, I will remind you, we will have a comment section at the end of the meeting. Go ahead, Jeff, if you can unmute everybody.
All guests have been unmuted. You will now rejoin the meeting.
Thank you. The lines are now open if you have any questions on any item on the agenda. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close that portion of the meeting, and we'll pause for a second to mute the lines.
Would you like your guests to be able to? All guests have been muted. You will now rejoin the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Item 5A on the agenda, reports of town officials. Mr. Tucci, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm going to have a brief report this evening. I'm going to start out like I normally do with the COVID-19 information. Basically, as of 7 o'clock tonight, we had no new cases and no new deaths in Cedar Grove, which is always good news. Our numbers of reported cases are at 408. Our number of deaths currently are at an even 100 at this point. There was some late breaking news today from the governor's office. The governor announced today that we'll be entering stage 2 of his plan starting June 15th. And stage 2 will include outdoor dining for restaurants and non-essential retail. And beginning June 22nd, barbershop salons will be able to reopen also. And in a period to follow this, not during this phase, we'll be gradually working toward personal care, gyms, health clubs, and reduced capacity at different stages in other facilities. Also, child safety guidelines were posted on the New Jersey state website, and they'll communicate with all licensed child care providers, Mayor, which you're fully aware of, what the requirements will be to abide by safety as a condition of reopening. You know, the full guidance can be found on the coronavirus website for anybody who's interested. Also, on June 22nd, there'll be a few additional things happening. With that, these are very good announcements for restaurants in particular and small businesses. June 15th, I would like to propose that here in Cedar Grove that maybe we should do something a little special for our businesses, meaning we should have a grand opening for all our outdoor dining. And what I would like to propose, and the governing body would have to go along with it, of course, and we'd have to have some of the restaurants also go along with it, is have an outdoor dining day down at Panther Park. Close it off and see how many vendors want to come. We can space them out. Again, this idea was hatched. If you go down to the Jersey Shore, they did this all weekend long. I saw this, and a couple other people called me and notified me of this. But I think we should have the Cedar Grove grand opening of our outdoor dining. I'm sure a few of our businesses will be chomping at the bit to get some exposure and some business. And again, we'll put the safety precautions in effect, you know, masks and distancing, but I think it would be something positive for the community. I don't know what the governing body's feedback is on it, but I'd just like to throw that out as a suggestion.
Yeah, Mr. Tucci, I have no objection. I think it's a great idea to support our local businesses. My only question would be some of the potentially logistical challenges doing it at Panther Park, or I'm sorry, Community Park.
At Panther Park in the parking lot.
Oh, in the
Sorry,
park.
I misspoke. If I said community
I
park,
don't know.
meant-
I could be misspeaking, but maybe what we should do, I love the idea. Let's reach out to some of our businesses to see, before we go ahead and announce
Yeah.
something.
I want to see who's interested.
Right. See who's interested, see if there's any logistical challenges that they may encounter. And maybe we could do some type of, if we did that, ordering in advance or something like that. I love the idea to the extent we could support our businesses, and to the extent that they could do it would be my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor,
Councilman-
if I might have a comment?
Yes, please.
I agree. I think it's a great idea, Mr. Tucci. On the same, and just throwing an idea, instead of Panther Park, and I know that's because it's our property, if you maybe have an LRP parking lot across the street from Town Hall, it's in center of town, and then and then after you eat, you can even go back on the lawn back there if you want to take some food and go back there, and maybe you can even go back to the restaurant later on. But I mean, keeping it more localized if possible.
Whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, I think the idea is an awesome idea.
I just throwing it out there. Anybody that can improve on the suggestion, please.
Yeah.
I actually,
this is open idea here.
Yeah.
Mr. Tucci, if I may, so actually it's part of my report. I'm going to be talking about something called it's called the Boxcar app. It's a drive-in movie that the Downtown Advisory Committee thought of. This might be something where we don't have to do the Boxcar app, but we do movies outside down at Morgan's Farm. Maybe you can combine a dinner and a movie or something like that to make it a nice event down there.
Well, the Recreation Department already has outdoor movies planned.
Okay.
Also, we're going to be moving toward opening up a few more of our sports facilities. I think the 22nd group sports with restrictions are going to be allowed. So we're going to start issuing permits for the Panther Park fields to certain of the sports groups moving forward. So we're going to start opening things up a little bit more in conformance to what the guidelines and the phases from the governor's office.
That's great. That's fantastic. I think for the June 15th, I think let's see if we can kind of get some of the logistics. Let's see if we can talk to some of our restaurants. And I love the idea. Let's see if we can make it happen.
And also I want to report, as of July 6th, we're probably going to start opening up some of our camps. I had a meeting with Marisa today. I had a meeting with a discussion with the deputy mayor about this also. And, there are groups that are reaching out to us, and we think it's time that we start letting some of these facilities in conformance with the safety standards that are in place to start moving forward. And as we talked about last meeting, we're going to move slowly, but we'll move, in a definite positive direction.
Thank you, Mr. Tucci.
Moving right along, later on in the agenda, there's a resolution regarding the CARES Act, which is of what the COVID-19 expenses are. Basically, it's a reimbursement agreement to get money. To my surprise, Cedar Grove has been allocated. I mean, you don't get the money unless you submit reimbursement that you expended it. $988,536.13. So, we have expenses that we're going to submit for reimbursement. We have a lot of supplies that we're going to be buying, and we're going to be also start doing some testing at the senior facility for those seniors that want it. And we're looking at COVID-19 testing and also antibody testing. We're going to start slow, and then we're going to see what other groups in town would like to be tested at that point. And again, we're going to be utilizing a lot of these funds that are available to us.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Tucci.
And also, I'd like to report that in the packet, there is a letter of resignation from the president of the Historical Society for your informational purposes. She brought up some facts in the letter that I think need to be tended to and need some attention, and we'll address that as we move forward.
Mr. Tucci, is that something that we want to take in an executive session, that discussion?
I guess, I don't know if the letter of resignation is an executive session item.
But the
As
contents
far
of
as
it?
the lease would be an executive session item. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark.
I agree with you, Mr. Tucci, and I was going to suggest that we go into executive session to discuss the lease and what options the township has with respect to it already this evening.
Mr. Tucci and Mr. Semeraro, may I add to that staffing at Morgan's Farm under executive? Is that possible?
I don't think so.
I don't think it meets.
I don't see how that particular issue would fall within executive session. But I think that
It's fair. You know,
the issues
whatever
that
the
we
answer
need to
is, the answer
discuss,
is.
the issues that we need to discuss in closed session, from my opinion as attorney, relate to a number of issues with respect to how the property has been utilized. And I think that it's broader in scope than just negotiations in the lease. It's on how to address some of the issues that, as your attorney, I feel need to be addressed. So
Mr.
we will
Semeraro,
keep the closed session in the parameters in which they are permitted by law.
okay.
To the extent that we have to discuss something outside the scope of what's permitted in closed session, I'll let you know, and we could discuss it in open session at a later date, if that's okay.
No. And that's fair, Mr. Tucci. I would like to talk about some of the issues that were raised in the letter, the underlying issues.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
No, that's appropriate. That's appropriate.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the resignation per se in executive. I would, however, like to talk about what remedies we have with regard to the underlying issues raised in the letter.
As they pertain to the lease, correct?
Correct. Okay,
And-
Mr. Semeraro?
Yeah, and in my roundabout way, I was kind of alluding to that. There could be overlap in the issues that you have in mind.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm sorry to make that more long-winded than it needed to be.
That's okay.
Mr. Tucci, go ahead.
The only other thing I have one item for executive session. It's regarding non-represented employee salary increases.
Employee salary increase?
Non-represented employee salary increases.
Okay. And then we'll go into, all right. Anything else, Mr. Tucci?
That's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tucci. Item 5B on the agenda, reports from Mrs. Stutz, our township clerk. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. The only thing I have to update you on is the governor's executive order for the June 7th primary to be conducted via a vote by mail ballot campaign. I believe there will be one polling site open in the municipality to accommodate anybody that wishes to go to a polling site to vote, but they will be voting by provisional ballot. And then the other item I have is I did provide you some memo with information regarding zoning board reappointments and the council liaison reappointments that would need to be made for July 1st. You do not have to discuss them tonight. You can do that during the staff meeting on the 15th. I just wanted you to have the information in it.
Thank you, Mrs. Stutz. You said there's one polling location. Did you say per municipality or per county?
Per municipality. Each municipality is supposed to have a minimum of one polling site open. The recommendation has been to utilize the Robert O'Toole Community Center, but that hasn't been confirmed yet.
Okay, thank you. That was my next question. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stutz. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Item 5C, our township attorney. Good evening, Mr. Semeraro.
Good evening, Mayor. I don't have anything to report per se, just a request that we go into executive session for attorney-client communication and discussions regarding the lease of Morgan's Farm and intended issues.
Is that one issue or is that attorney, is that two separate issues?
It's all related to Morgan's Farm, two separate issues. I would think it's two separate issues relating to Morgan's Farm.
Yeah, so
Two separate issues related to the farm, you said, I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay, attorney-client communications and lease discussions, right?
Yep.
Okay, got it. I just want to write that down. Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Simmer. Anything else?
Thank you. No.
Mayor, if I could, I just need to interrupt you. I got to add one more item to my report.
Please.
There was a memo from our tax attorney regarding a tax appeal settlement. It's in the packet. It's under interdepartmental documents. It's for settlement of a tax appeal at Block 91, Lot 13. And
Okay.
we're just seeking authorization to settle this so we can put a resolution on for the next meeting.
Do you need a formal vote or you
No, we just need an agreement from you to put it on for the next meeting. You'll take a formal vote at that point with the resolution.
understood? Yeah, I have no objection to putting it on the next meeting.
Okay, anybody else? Or-
No
Okay,
objection.
thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No, thank you. Okay, item 5D on the agenda, council reports. Good evening, Councilman Misseri. How are you today?
Evening, Mayor. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I go around in the order on my screen here. Yeah.
No problem. So I don't have a formal report. I just had a couple of questions that regarding updates in the town, if I may. Mr. Tucci, one item, if I know it's on the agenda under new business 6B. I just wanted if you could talk about the grant that we're seeking for the electric car. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yes, what happened was we had gotten a grant to put two electric charging stations. One is located right here at Town Hall, which is operational and functional right now. And the second one is for DPW usage for the electric car down at DPW. With that, we are qualifying for a $5,500 grant as reimbursement as part of the program. And that's what this resolution reflects, getting reimbursement on the grant that we submitted earlier on. Now that we have the charging station and the vehicle. Just as a little bit of tidbit of information, and it's funny, the mayor and I had a little discussion about this. You may at some point see a vehicle riding around town with the Township of Cedar Grove on the side of it. And the car is manufactured by Tesla. And the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is, wow, the township spent all that money and bought a Tesla. Well, unbeknownst to myself also, Tesla this past year came out with a very economical model electric car. As a matter of fact, it came in less than the Chevy Volt, which was, I think, the lowest price electric vehicle. The Chevy Volt was about $40,000. This came in at about $36,000 and change. Hence, that's the reason why the Township of Cedar Grove has a Tesla, because it was the most economical purchase that we could get for an electric car that fit our needs. So again, when you see a Tesla, it's just like any other line of cars. They have a high end and they have a low end. This happens to be the low end. But I have to say, and the mayor pointed this out, it's a very attractive looking vehicle. It's very sporty looking, but it suits our needs and it meets our environmental needs right now. Just a short, brief explanation. I'm sorry it was long-winded.
No, thank you. And the $5,500 grant that we're going to vote on later, that's the same grant that we were discussing a few months ago, right? This is just the reimbursement side of the application. Is that how it works?
That is correct. The reimbursement always ends up on the back end of the transaction. You never get the money up front. After you spend it, and then you submit all your paperwork and make sure it's in compliance, because BPU is the one that really distributes these dollars.
Great. Two other questions, Mr. Tucci.
Sure.
any update on paving, 20 through 23 Pompton Ave paving?
Actually, Lieutenant Pumphrey had a meeting with the contractors and DOT at this point. They're saying within the next 2 weeks, they're going to start paving.
Okay.
Now, again, barring any other issues that come up, we should see this start down near the South End Firehouse where they left off, and then they'll proceed in a northbound direction. We have already had some meetings about how we're going to handle when we hit the central business district and how these businesses have to remain open. So there's always going to be a flow of traffic. The only time there probably will be no traffic flow is the actual day when they pave right in front of the business. But as soon as they pave, they're going to be opening up. They know they can't keep Route 23 closed. And we're trying to talk to some of the businesses that have parking to help some that don't have parking so that we could, share some of the pain that's going to go on during that brief time.
And
Actually,
Councilman
answers
Messeri,
my question. Yes, go ahead, Nick, sorry.
just for the public's edification, we've been working very hard on the paving project for many, many years now. And of course, it coincides with a pandemic where a lot of our downtown businesses where we're very concerned that we don't interrupt their business flow. And Mr. Tucci, thank you for having those meetings because it is important. And especially with the outdoor dining that will be on the way, it will be, super important that we coordinate that with our local businesses in the area.
Just two other tidbits along to follow up on that question. One of the most important improvements will be made during this paving period, and that'll be the West Lindsley Pompton Avenue intersection where you come down from Mountain. That will be addressed during this paving cycle. And also, I'm glad you referenced outdoor dining, Mayor. Right now, we have 3 facilities that have been issued permits for outdoor dining. So there you have it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tucci. Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Councilman Messeri. Councilman Cicala.
Good evening, Mayor. I don't have a report tonight. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilman Tanella, good evening.
Good
How are
evening,
you?
Mayor. How are you?
Good.
Mr. Tucci, what's the status of the clean sweep this year? I assume it's canceled?
Clean sweep has been canceled for this year, officially.
Canceled?
The
Okay.
state of New Jersey canceled it on their end.
They did? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had, Mayor. Just wanted to ask the question.
Thank you, Councilman. Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Good evening, Mayor. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good. I just have a couple things. I'm sure, as you are all aware, our superintendent, Mr. Featherman, is leaving. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank him for all he's done in his service to Cedar Grove and all the students. He's always been so involved. I know when Marisa did the Panther Walk, he always came and participated, came to all the kids, plays, sporting events, everything. He's really served this town well. So I just wanted to thank him for that. And kind of along those same lines, when I was thinking of Mr. Featherman leaving, it reminded me that we had, I remember a while back, we had established a Board of Ed subcommittee. And I thought, I just wanted to see what was happening with that. And this is probably a really important time that we, kind of get that going, because with Featherman leaving and the state of schools really unknown for the fall, I just think that we more than ever probably need to work together to make that flow as seamless as possible. So I just wanted to ask about an update on that.
Mayor, can I address that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor, that subcommittee was formed for really one purpose, and that was to discuss the flow of money from the Hilltop and the expansion of the schools that may be needed for that. We talked about meeting. We were going to meet in February. It didn't happen, right. And then after the pandemic hit, there's been no further talks of meeting to discuss monies. And then we found out about Mr. Featherman. What I will add, which may be helpful or not to your question, is that the Board of Ed is meeting tonight and the next 3 nights, and they're interviewing potential superintendent candidates. And that's going to be over the next 4 days, 4 evenings. Actually, they're probably meeting with the first 2 tonight. Once that is done, they're going to take their recommendations and they're going to provide those recommendations to a committee that they formed of parents, teachers, administrators, to be screened by the committee, and the committee is going to go back and give a recommendation for superintendent. I've been asked to sit on that committee, and I've accepted. So that'll be probably in the next 2 weeks. That committee would be meeting, and their hope is that if there's somebody in this round of people that that they're interviewing that is qualified to be superintendent, that they like, that has the approval of the Board of Ed and the committee, that by the end of this month, they'll have a new superintendent in place. And in light of that, I mean, it's probably the best thing to do is to wait until that process happens, and we can have our subcommittee meeting to kind of get that new superintendent acclimated to what's going on in town, and they can get he or she acclimated to the fact that there's this issue with pilot monies and et cetera, et cetera. But beyond that, whatever support, of course, I know we have a great working relationship with the board, the entire council does. Whatever support that we can lend to them, I'm sure they're willing to take and accept.
Deputy Mayor, if I could jump in. So I will say this, two things. So I've been in contact with the Board of Ed President, Chrissy Dye, over the past few weeks and offered any assistance that she would need. But the other recommendation that I'd like to make to the council, since we're on this topic, if you recall, probably a year ago around this time, we formed that subcommittee. And we formed that subcommittee in mind with Councilman Cicala as the liaison, and me on that subcommittee with you as the incoming mayor. Obviously, we didn't have any meetings this year. What I'd like to recommend to the council here is that Deputy Mayor step in as the mayor, as the mayor come July, and lead that subcommittee. If there's an objection to that, I don't think there will be, but I think that would kind of be in line with the spirit of our discussions from last year. If there's any objections or concerns, but that would be my recommendation.
No objection.
Okay.
No objection.
Congratulations, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. And thank you, Joe, for that insight. I appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor, just on your comments on the superintendent, I agree. I was remiss into mentioning that there's going to be big shoes to fill with him. I mean, he had a great working relationship with all of us and Mr. Tucci, and I always appreciated the fact that he came. He attended pretty much all of our township events. He really did. He really cared about Cedar Grove, and I'm hoping they can find another person like him who can step into his shoes. I'm going to miss him. I mean, I wish him well, but he did a lot for Cedar Grove, and I'm going to miss him.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor?
So, okay, so just one more thing, and this is really a question for Mrs. Stutz, and I have no idea if any thought has been, hi, Mrs. Stutz, if any thought has been given to this, but being that we are going to have one polling station open, even if it is the Robert O'Toole Center, has there been given any thought to who will work the polls? Because I ask because most poll workers are at that vulnerable population age, and I'm a little worried about that. So I didn't know if we had to look for a different population of a worker, or if that's been given thought or anything like that.
It's actually the Essex County Board of Elections' responsibility to provide board workers, poll workers for elections. So I have not yet had a direct conversation with the clerk of the board. I reached out to her today. I haven't, because I have some of those same questions.
Yeah.
I do know that the executive order provided that you could have out of county, I believe, board workers, definitely out of municipality, board workers from other municipalities to fill in. Of course, the number of board workers required is going to be, with only one polling site open, will be much reduced.
Right. Yeah. And then the only other thought, and I'm sure, I know the county does this, not you, but I know they have a really long day. I think they get there at 6 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. Yeah, 5 a.m. And so even if and that's a long time for, the couple poll workers that'll be in there they'll be exposed to so many people coming in and out. Maybe if they staggered the workers, like 2 or 3 hour shifts, would decrease their exposure. Just if you have a call with them or you're talking to them, it's just a suggestion. So that's all.
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so I'm up. So I just have a couple things that I want to go over. Mr. Tucci, if I could, I'd like to put this on your radar. We've talked about this many times over the past few years, but Devil's Hole is, I can tell you, I was there about 2 hours ago. I walked by and I must have seen 60 to 70 people over there. And I only anticipate with community pools potentially being closed, not only, potentially in Cedar Grove, but in other towns already. I kid you not, as I was leaving, I even saw, a group of 6 heading over there. And I think it's a really big, safety concern, as we've all discussed before. I know it's very hard to police it when, you get everybody to leave, and then 20 minutes later, the police are no longer there. But that is something that I think is, it's important, not only because it's a large gathering that they're having over there, but it's a huge safety issue. Saw some young kids over there. So I wanted to bring this to your attention.
Police are already aware of it. The past 2 weekends, especially this past one, we've had large crowds there. Just so you're aware, the utilizing of the park is okay. It's the swimming in the water that's the violation. That's where we end up with a problem. And we're looking at some alternative methods to curtail the going in the water. People want to enjoy the park is one thing, as long as they're spaced out socially. But we are discussing some options. I don't know if they're going to be feasible, but we are to discourage the swimming in the Devil's Hole area.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Again, this is obviously we've had at least one fatality that I'm aware of, and more, I believe, to my council colleagues that have been here longer than me. I think this is a really, really important issue. So to the extent we can do that, that would be fantastic, Mr. Tucci. But other options. Councilman Messeri, I wanted to ask about the paving, so thank you. Mr. Tucci, we talked about the outdoor dining permits, and I will tell you, number one, the business owners, the restaurants that I've spoken to, that have spoken to you, have given glowing reviews about how that process went. And on behalf of them, on behalf of me, I want to thank you for working with those restaurant owners to get that outdoor seating. I know that that some of them are very, very happy. So you said we had 3. Now, how do we? I've been contacting restaurants and telling them to contact you. Is the application online? That it is
online. It's on our website. And one more thing.
Yeah.
Don't just thank me. Thank the clerk. The clerk does an outstanding job here, processing everything. And I just want to point her out here.
Thank you, Mr. Stutz, for doing that. I appreciate it. Mr. Tucci, I'm going to continue to push our restaurant owners in your direction.
That's fine, Mayor.
Because I think, they're perhaps in the past, they've looked at it maybe as a long process or whatever it might be, but
it's anything but long, believe me.
Anything but a long process. And I think it's more of a collaborative process now, more so than ever. So we'll keep doing that. I'm happy to hear that. I want to share that news. I mentioned earlier about something that came up with the Downtown Advisory Committee. And I thought it was a fantastic idea, though there are no real options to do this in the downtown area. But there's an app called, I'm sorry, my iPad's about to die. There we go. There's an app called the Boxcar app. And what it is you pay a fee as a township. It's a drive-in movie. We don't set anything up, but what the app does as well is they work with your local businesses as a pre-order. So, for example, you go there and it's dinner and a movie, but you pre-order through the app. So let's just say Delmonico's as an example. You pre-order through the Boxcar app, and Delmonico's has your food ready and delivers it to your particular spot that Boxcar has assigned. The cost is relatively minimal. I think it's like $1,500 or so. And I thought it was a great idea that the Downtown Advisory Committee brought up to A, support our local businesses, and B, bring something good to the community. Just unfortunately, there's nowhere in the downtown area, according to the Boxcar app that we've talked to their management over there. The community park would likely be the most feasible spot based on the width of the parking lot. So I mention it to you because I don't think it's a Downtown Advisory Committee event that can be thrown there. And I was wondering if we can maybe pass this along to Marisa.
Okay, we can look into it.
Yeah, that'd be great because it'll support both the downtown, our business owners, and good for the community.
Okay,
So,
we'll look into particulars.
Thank you. I'll get you some details, Mr. Tucci.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all that I have for today. Okay. Moving on, item 6A on the agenda, to consider resolution concerning adoption of 2020 Essex County Hazard Mitigation Plan update. Do I have a motion? Oh, Ms.
That's
Stutz?
okay. That's okay. Be it resolved that the Township of Cedar Grove adopts in its entirety the 2020 Essex County Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Nasseri,
Yes.
Councilman Tanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Item 6B on the agenda, to consider resolution concerning submission of Clean Fleet Electric Vehicle Incentive Grant Program application.
Be it resolved that the governing body resolves that Alex Colombo is authorized to make application for said grant.
Thank you. Ms. Stutz, may I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I'd like to move this resolution, please.
Thank you, Councilman Nasseri. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Nasseri,
Yes.
Councilman Tanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes.
Mayor, could I just make one comment before? I just want to thank Councilman Misery because it's nice when you bring up an idea and you see it to fruition. And you brought up the idea, Councilman, and you saw it through. And now we have the car, we have the charging stations, and now we have the grant money that you talked about initially. So thank you for your foresight.
Thank you, Mr. Tucci, for the hard work in getting this done as well. Thank you very much.
All right. So we did a motion. We did. Did I have a second?
Yes, I second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Roll call, please.
You did it.
We voted.
You
Oh,
did
geez.
that. We're
I
on to the next
apologize.
agenda item.
I am multitasking right now, trying to make sure that my iPad doesn't die, and I can't find a charger anywhere. So just so let's go ahead on to item 6C on the agenda, to consider resolution concerning estimated tax bills.
Be it resolved that the tax collector is hereby authorized and directed to prepare and issue estimated tax bills for the third installment of 2020 taxes.
I'll make a motion to approve that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Messeri,
Yes.
Councilman Tanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Okay. All right. Item 6D on the agenda to consider resolution concerning removal of certain no stopping or standing zones.
Be it resolved that the mayor and council support and approve the removal of no stopping or standing zones in the downtown business district area as set forth in the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Stutz. If I could go under discussion quickly, thank you for your efforts, Mr. Tucci, and the Chief of Police Department making this happen. I think this will encourage and promote our downtown area, allowing the removing the no stopping and no standing signs.
Well, hopefully we'll get a few more parking spaces and it'll slow down the traffic and our businesses will be recognized a little more in the downtown area.
Absolutely. May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Messeri,
Yes.
Councilman Tanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Okay. Item 7, approval of bills.
Be it resolved that the summary of bills, having been duly audited and found correct, are hereby ordered paid in the amount of $335,610.50.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Messeri,
Yes.
Councilman Tanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Item 8 on the agenda, contracts and agreements to consider resolution authorizing execution reimbursement agreement for CARES Act.
Be it resolved that the Township Council does hereby authorize the execution of said agreement.
Thank you. We've discussed this already earlier. Mr. Tucci, anything else to add?
No, that's basically it, Mayor. Just,
Okay,
just one more thing. Beside the CARES Act, we're still eligible for FEMA reimbursement besides that.
Great. Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Cicala. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Messeri. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Messeri,
Yes.
Councilman Tanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. So at this point in time, the meeting will be open to residents of the township wishing to be heard on any item on or off the agenda concerning township business. We have 6 callers on the line. So what we will do is, as we've done in the past, we are going to go through each caller one by one, and you will hear the last 4 digits of your phone number. You will be unmuted. I will give a 10-second roll-off. If you have a question or a comment at that point in time, just please state your name and your address for the record, and then we'll go ahead and proceed. I believe we have 4 callers. Is that, Mr. Tucci, is that correct now?
That's correct. We have 4 at this point.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and start with the first caller. Jeff, if I can ask you to go ahead with that, or Mr. Tucci.
Caller 6927.
Okay. Caller 6927 will be unmuted. If you have any questions, now would be the time. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next caller.
Caller 4673.
Caller 4673, if you have any
Nothing for me,
questions.
thank you.
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Next caller.
Caller 7800.
No comment here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our last caller.
Caller 0827.
Good evening, Mayor Vargo and Councilman. My question, I'm Pastor Joel Thompson at Chapel on the Hill, 560 Ridge Road here in Cedar Grove. And on your COVID update earlier and mention from Governor Murphy, I didn't hear any order about when the churches might be to reopen. Could someone address that, please?
Sure. Ms. Stutz, did you get the caller's name just so you have it for your record?
Pastor Joel Thompson, Chapel on the Hill.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Pastor. Thank you for calling in. Mr. Tucci, I have some information on this, but I'm going to defer to you if you have more accurate information.
No, go ahead, Mayor. You were on the mayor's call. You go ahead.
So as far as I know, the governor is looking into expanding the outdoor gatherings, but has not made a determination yet. And just so you know, Pastor, an indoor gathering like that is not something that the Township of Cedar Grove would control. We take our guidance from the governor with regard to all indoor, all the executive orders. We are certainly monitoring this one very, very closely. We want all of our residents to be able to get into their religious facilities. We're going to keep monitoring it, and we'll of course update the public as those announcements come in. So I believe outdoor gatherings are permitted at this point in time, but I could be wrong on that, Mr. Tucci.
I think you're correct.
Okay. Pastor, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I was aware, and I'm sure I can actually find this information myself on probably a website. But if you do happen to know, I know they had limited the number to I don't know if it was 25 or something.
It was 25.
Do you know the exact number at this point?
It is 25.
It is 25.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you very much.
And one other thing, Pastor, if you have any problems, please call Town Hall tomorrow. We can give you the website, refer you to the governor's website with that information in case you're having a hard time locating it.
Okay, I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.
Be well.
Thank you, Pastor, for calling.
Thank you.
Mr. Tucci, is that all the callers?
That's it.
Okay. Since we have no more callers on the line, we're going to go ahead and close the portion of our meeting. We have an executive session, and give me a second here. Okay. Okay, whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12B, 1 through 9, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting of the mayor and council in certain circumstances. And whereas the mayor and council of the Township of Cedar Grove are of the opinion that such circumstances exist. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and council of the Township of Cedar Grove, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the public shall be excluded from discussion of any action on the executive session of the meeting of the mayor and council of June 1st, 2020. The general nature of the subject matters to be discussed are non-represented employee salary increases, attorney-client communications, and lease discussions with regard to Morgan's Farm. Okay, it is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public as soon thereafter as it is deemed in the public interest to do so. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Okay. Do I have a motion on that, Mr. Tucci? We haven't done one in a while. Do I need a motion to do that?
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Tonella. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Messeri. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cicala,
Yes.
Councilman Messeri,
Yes.
Councilman Tonella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Vargo.
Yes. Item 10, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mayor.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did not get who moved it and who seconded it,
Deputy Mayor,
and who seconded it.
Councilman Tonella,
Thank you.
and then all were in favor.
Right.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Good night. Okay, so we are going to go ahead. Did we end the call, the conference call?
Yes, everybody is off the call.
Okay.
We are
Andy-
just Zoom right now.
Andy, if you could, at this point in time, this would be the point in time to end the recording as well.